The budget hearing is hereby resumed. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. During our last hearing, the committee deferred the termination of the budget briefing of the Office of the Vice President. This decision was not made lightly, but rather arrived at after careful reflection and deliberation. I would like to inform the body that we are in receipt of a letter dated 10 September 2024 and I will read the letter. It is addressed to the Speaker. Dear Speaker Romualdez, the Office of the Vice President has submitted all necessary documentation to the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations, including a detailed presentation on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025. I have also articulated my position on the issues outlined in my opening statement during the previous hearing on 27 August 2024. We defer entirely to the discretion and judgment of the committee regarding our budget proposal for the coming year. Very truly yours, Sara Z. Duterte. Notably, there is no categorical mention in the letter as to whether the Vice President intends to attend the hearing or not, and so we extended courtesy to her office by waiting for 1 hour. So, but I would also like to mention to the body that we are joined by resource persons from the Commission on Audit as well as from the DBM, and I would like the COMSEC to acknowledge your presence.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. May we kindly request our resource persons to please acknowledge when their name is mentioned. From the Commission on Audit, Audit Team Leader, Office of the Vice President, Fahad bin Abdul Malik Mawis. State Auditor 1, Zara Jane Pegalan. Supervising Auditor 5, Imelda Celso. Attorney 5, Intelligence and Confidential Funds Audit Office, or ICFAO, Attorney Gloria Camora. State Auditor 3, Intelligence and Confidential Funds Audit Office, ICFAO, Silent May Del Campo.
Present.
And also from COA, Supervising Auditor 4, Melanie Judy Salazar. May we also acknowledge our guests from the Department of Budget and Management, Director Elena Regina Berlantes. May we now proceed with acknowledging the presence of the members. May we acknowledge the former President, Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Deputy Speaker Raymond Mendoza, Deputy Speaker Yasser Parinto, Deputy Majority Leader Victor Pamno, Deputy Majority Leader Franz Pomare, Deputy Majority Leader Jude Asidre, Deputy Majority Leader Janet Karim, Deputy Majority Leader Leanda Bodilla, Deputy Minority Leader Franz Castro, Deputy Majority Leader Bong Teves, Senior Vice Chair Luz Kimbo, Vice Chair Jose Alvarez, Vice Chair Greg Gasataya, Vice Chair Zia Alonto Adjo, Vice Chair Loreto Acharon, Vice Chair Natasha Po, Vice Chair Ching Pernos, Vice Chair Jill Ponganon, Vice Chair Jocelyn Caichong, Vice Chair Francisco Madugas, Vice Chair Gerardo Espina, Vice Chair Romeo Momo, Vice Chair Teodorico Haresco, Representative Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez, Representative Arlene Rosas, Representative Patrick Vargas, Representative Salvador Perito, Representative Edwin Garjola, Representative Ricardo Cruz, Representative Mark Go, Representative Rene Ann Matibat, Representative Doris Maniquez, Representative Faustino Michael D., Representative Loreto Amante, Representative Arnan Panaligan, Representative Stephen Paduano, Representative Emerson Pascual, Representative Jefferson Tongun, Representative Ernesto Junicio, Representative Christian Bonavia. We also have Representative Rodante Mancoleva, Representative Micaela Swansea, Representative Fidel Nograles, Representative Hebrew, Representative Francisco Ortega, and Vice Chair Tolf Dominica, and Representative Jervin. That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And just to confirm, COMSEC, no one from the Office of the Vice President attended.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's true.
So,
Point of inquiry, Madam Chair.
yes, please proceed.
Yes. Madam Chair, so ibig sabihin, wala po ni isa na dumating from the Office of the Vice President para sumagot ng mga tanong ng ating mga colleagues, Madam Chair.
That is correct.
Madam Chair, kahapon kasi hindi na kami pinagtanong sa Office of the President. Tapos ngayon naman, wala naman yung Office of the Vice President para tanungin namin, Madam Chair. So Madam Chair, hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit yung two highest position in the land natin ganito sa ating budget hearing sa Kongreso, no? Madam Chair, isang insulto sa mamamayang Pilipino at sa mga kinatawan dito sa loob ng Kongreso na hinalal ng mamamayan. Ano? Ang hiling natin makapagpaliwanag ng accountability at ang hiling natin ay maglinaw, no, ng mga, kasi marami pa po tayong tanong kaugnay dito. She may not like our questions last hearing, Madam Chair. She may not like being questioned about the OVP expenses. She may not like sitting with us here in the House. But Madam Chair, she is accountable to the people and she has this sworn duty to the Constitution, being the head of the agency, to be here, no, para po ipagtanggol or malaman natin yung budget niya, Madam Chair. So yun lang, Madam Chair, as a manifestation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, may I manifest also?
Congressman? Sorry, conference.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, pwede ba kami naman muna, hindi naman sunod-sunod na sila na lang. Madam Chair, please.
So, Madam
I'd
Chair,
I'd
so
like
wala
to,
pa naman po
before
tayo
you
sa...
proceed, before
May
you
I
proceed,
raise a
before you proceed,
parliamentary
conference,
inquiry, Madam Chair?
before you proceed, I'd like to remind our members for orderly proceedings, please wait to be acknowledged
Yes,
before
ma'am,
you speak.
pero-
Sa ngayon po, dahil nauna po si Kong Franz, paunahin na muna natin siya. So Kong Franz, please proceed.
pero sila
And
na
then
po
I will
yung-
recognize you after. Kong Dante.
Magkakasunod, Madam.
Medyo nauna lang po siya ng 1
Di
second po.
ba, di ba
Kong
ang
Dante.
ating tradition, unang minority, pagkatas majority?
Wala pa po tayo
sunod-sunod
sa
naman
interpellation,
sila.
Kong
Oo nga
Dante.
po, pero maski na sa manifestation, dapat ganun din.
Nauna lang po siya, so yes po. Kong Franz, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, ang ibig sabihin nito ay kahit na binigyan natin ang Office of the Vice President na second round, no, second time around na magpaliwanag do sa budget at magkaroon tayo ng pagkakataon na siya ay matanong dahil ito naman po talaga yung mandato natin dito sa Kongreso, no. Busisi yung budget. So ang ibig sabihin po nito ay binoboykot niya tayo. Pagboboykot ito, Madam Chair, dahil wala pang akong natatandaan na ahensya ng gobyerno o executive branch na binoykot ang Kongreso dito sa budget hearing and deliberation. So ang ibig sabihin, Madam Chair, no? Betrayal of her oath of office. Kahapon nakita ko yung kanyang video na ginagalang niya yung power of the purse ng Kongreso. Alam niya na tayo po yung nag-allocate or nagbabudget or nag-approve ng budget ng lahat ng ahensya. So dahil pinapaubaya niya na sa atin ito, na hindi niya man lang i-defend. Kasi ang laki-laki nung, Madam Chair, yung budget for socio-economic program delivery, socio-economic projects and stakeholder. Ang ibig sabihin ba niyan, inaabandonan niya na yung pinaplano niya siguro na ng mga constituents niya na bibigyan niya nitong mga programs na ito. So, Madam Chair, so ang problema dito, no, talagang bratinela to the max, no, na ayaw na ngang matanong no, umiiwas sa mga tanong. At eto pa, no, kapag gusto nating tanungin, hindi uma-attend doon sa ano, no. Kaya talagang Madam Chair, siguro later on, kung ano yung later on na lang po, Madam Chair, yung aking magiging pasya, no, dito sa magiging budget at recommendation sa budget ng OBP. So, pasensya na po ang taong bayan, binoykot tayo ng Vice President.
Salamat, Pong Franz. Pong Marcoleta, you're now recognized.
Salamat po, Madam Chair. Yung hindi po pagdating ng ating pangalawang Pangulo ngayon, ang suspecha ko po ay dahil sa nangyari na mga pagtatanong ng nakaraang pagdinig. I have heard the volume and the barrage of questions asked by members of this committee to the Vice President. Despite the fact, Madam Chair, I heard her several times saying, I forgo the opportunity of defending the OVP budget for 2025 by question and answer, and I leave it to the House of Representatives to decide on such proposal as presented. That was the template of an answer given by the Office of the Vice President. Madam Chair, napilitan po akong mag-raise ng parliamentary inquiry. I think I have earned this. If I survive my term up to next year, I would have survived also, or I would have completed 18 years in this institution. And in this length of time, I have observed a tradition. The tradition is the two highest positions of government, namely the Office of the Vice President and the Office of the President, are not traditionally subjected to questions. I have observed this for so long a time. May I refresh the memory of the members of this committee, Madam Chair. In 2022, the Minority Leader, Honorable Liban, citing courtesy to the Office of the Vice President, took only about 13 minutes to move for determination of the budget of the Vice President. And after that, the Majority Leader seconded the motion. That was 2022, Madam Chair. Then 2023, no less than the Presidential son, our own Senior Deputy Majority Leader, the Honorable Sandro Marcos, stood up and invoked the long-honored tradition of according courtesy to the OBP, the Office of the Vice President. And in the same manner, he moved for determination of the Office of the Budget, the consideration of the budget of the Office of the Vice President. I also recall, Madam Chair, that it was terminated. And with the full consternation of Honorable Franz Castro, who then objected, but her objections were never heard until she moved to make up record by way of manifestation her objections. But the committee collectively said, you can no longer do that because there was already a termination. This is the time-honored tradition, Madam Chair. For so long a time, we have kept and observed this. We have upheld this tradition. My question is this committee authorized to set aside or discard the tradition? That is the question.
Your Honor, such motion was not introduced in the last hearing.
I'm now introducing the motion, Madam Chair.
I second, Madam Chair.
To terminate the consideration of the budget of the Vice President, Madam Chair, on the basis of the long and time-honored tradition, Madam Chair. In order for us to respect a tradition in the same manner that we have respected the tradition here that the first to interpolate every time is the member of the minority. That is the tradition. We have not yet discarded that. We're observing that because we are honorable members of this Congress. So the question is, why have we discarded that tradition? Is this committee authorized to set aside the tradition? If we are not able to do that, Madam Chair, then I honorably, respectfully now move to terminate consideration of the budget of the office of the Vice President, and I so move.
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, Madam Chair, Madam Chair,
Move and seconded.
Session suspended. The hearing is hereby resumed.
Madam Chair, I objected to the motion and may I explain why?
We will take that up after we respond to the Honorable Marcoleta.
Thank you, Madam
But yes,
Chair.
we note that you made an objection, but your mic was off. So, the Honorable Marcoleta, please repeat your inquiry.
Yes, in connection to the earlier parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chair, I have already related the value of tradition. Parliamentary procedures, Madam Chair, grow from or are enriched by traditions, experiences, and precedents collectively gathered by the House of Representatives over years, and the institution keeps them well. That is why, from my entry in 2004 or the 13th Congress until today, I have observed the observance of that well-kept tradition. The two highest positions in government, namely the office of the President and the office of the Vice President, were duly accorded with respect and deference. I have observed that. That's why I have relayed to you earlier in 2022, the Honorable Libanan, invoking courtesy, took him only 13 minutes to dispose the office of the Vice President. And that was quickly moved, quickly seconded by no less than our majority leader. That was in 2022. I'm not going by record, Madam Chair. 2023, I said, no less than the presidential son, our own senior deputy majority leader, stood up and said that in line with the time-honored tradition of according courtesy to the office of the Vice President, I move to terminate the budget briefing of the OBP. And I can recall the Honorable Castro strongly objected. No, that's in 2023. This is by the record. And she objected, but her objections were rejected by the committee because the committee already terminated the proceeding. And she kept on requesting, Madam Chair, that she makes at least her manifestation. And she was unable to do that because the proceedings were terminated. So that, what I am saying, from 2004, when I entered these halls, these hallowed halls, hanggang punto sa sinasabi kong 2023, we have kept the tradition. Ngayon po, kung ano-ano ng mga tanong ang ginawa, in 2023, 22 minutes. 2022, 13 minutes. Ito po, pinagawa yan na po yung budget earlier at ngayon we're about to quarrel again on the budget. Ang tanong ko nga po ngayon, dahil nga po sa nangyayari ngayon sa budget ng Office of the Vice President, and despite her manifestation that she will no longer defend her budget because she forgo, sabi niya, I will forgo my opportunity to defend the budget of the OBP for 2025 by way of question and answer, and I will leave to the House of Representatives to decide such proposal as presented. We cannot even accept such kind of answer, Madam Chair. What do we need her to articulate for? So ang pinag-uusapan po natin, wala na po ba yung respeto sa tradisyon na yun? Kagaya po ng binabanggit ko, every time mag-interpellate po dito, Madam Chair, because of that tradition, it's always the member of the minority who will start the interpellation because we have kept that tradition. Ang dami po. Ang dami ko pang sasabihin sa inyo, haba lang tayo. So the question is, when we did that to the Vice President earlier, now we're doing it now, are we now setting aside this tradition? That's number one question. Number two, is this committee authorized to set aside the tradition?
Your Honor, short answer is no to both questions.
Okay. If that is the answer, Madam Chair, and we are all bound to respect one tradition so sacred in our hearts, because we are called honorables in this house. We cannot be honorables if we cannot honor our own tradition. We are defined by what we believe as a tradition in this house. So if we are now all amenable that we have kept that tradition, no longer questions are being asked, then I will respectfully move, Madam Chair, to terminate the budget of the OBP for 2025.
I object, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
I object.
Madam Chair, I
There's a
object.
motion to terminate the budget briefing of the OVP, but there is an objection, so we divide the House. The chair has decided to divide the House. So those
Madam Chair,
in favor
as
of the motion,
as a rule, we usually deliberate
Those-
before we vote.
those in favor
We deliver-
of the motion, please raise your hand. Those in favor of the motion to terminate the budget briefing of the OVP, please raise your hand. Those who are not in favor of terminating, raise your hand.
For non-tradition.
Three in favor, 45 against. The motion is lost.
Madam Chair, I thought we have kept the tradition. The tradition is no longer ask any question. That was the tradition. So why are you voting against the motion?
The majority of the
It-
will
it's-
is
it's-
always respect.
It's
The will of the
inconsistent
majority
with the
is always
tradition that
respected.
we have already agreed to observe.
So we will
Yes, Madam
proceed
Chair.
to the next.
You mentioned earlier that we will keep up the tradition. You said no. Earlier,
For
now
orderly
we voted
proceedings, I
against.
remind the members to please wait to be recognized before speaking. So, the chair now recognizes the
Madam
budget
Chair.
sponsor, the Honorable Zia Adyong, to give a recap of what transpired in the last hearing.
Madam Chair,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair, before
Madam Chair.
we proceed with Vice Chair Adam, can I
Yes,
explain my
Kong-
vote, Madam Chair?
Paduano?
Can I explain my vote, why I voted against the motion of the Honorable Marcoleta? Just short lang.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you po. Madam Chair, tama po. During the previous hearing, wala pong nag-move to terminate the budget. That's number one po of the OBP. Number two po, the demand or the answers being given by the Vice President during the time. Personally, it does not satisfy this representation. Thirdly, Madam Chair, the courtesy being given to the Office of the Vice President is afforded if she's present in today's hearing. How can you give that courtesy when Paki is absent in today's hearing, Madam Chair? I might change my vote for that, but
Was the President of the
are
Philippines
you
present?
recognized?
Please.
Congressman,
Please
I am
wait
about
to
to
be
be recognized,
recognized.
Madam Chair.
Please wait to be recognized. Please proceed, Kong Paduano. You
you're
have
not yet
30 seconds.
recognized, Marcoleta. Madam Chair, maybe I will change my vote if the verb for the motion Marcoleta if the Vice President is present in today's hearing. But he's absent. How can I personally vote for that? Because he's not present in today's hearing, Madam Chair, and that courtesy should be given to those head of office that should be present during the budget deliberation, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
So, Kong Zia, you're now recognized. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Majority Leader, Representative Manix Dalipe, Committee Chair Saldico, members, honorable members of this committee. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good morning po sa ating lahat and welcome to the continuation of the budget briefing of the proposed 2025 budget for the Office of the Vice President. Madam Chair, in the previous hearing for fiscal year 2025, the Office of the Vice President proposed a budget of 2,037,305. As of the most recent report, the OVP has an obligation rate of 39.9% for 2024. During the last budget briefing, several topics were propounded that the committee sought to be clarified upon. First, members of the committee asked the Office of the Vice President regarding the notice of disallowance issued by COA for the confidential funds released in 2022 indicated that 73 million pesos or 58.6% of total was not utilized in compliance with Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01 of COA, DBM, DILG, GCG, and DND. The Commission on Audit has ordered the disallowed amount to be returned. Second, several members of the committee examined the grounds for the disallowance. The COA report stated that this was due to non-compliance with guidelines and the non-submission of supporting evidence or documents. Third, it was noted by members of the committee that the 125 million pesos confidential fund for the fiscal year 2022 was utilized from December 1 to December 31 of the same year, in 2022. A common comment by members, Madam Chair, was that this short period of time within which a huge amount of fund is spent raised further clarificatory questions on the validity of the spending. Fourth, members of the committee raised that there were supposed duplications between the Office of the Vice President's medical and burial assistance programs and those provided by the DOH and the SWD. Clarifications were sought on how these overlaps would be addressed to ensure the proper use of resources. Fifth, there were inquiries about the accessibility of various OVP programs, such as the Educational Assistance Program, the Kalusugan Food Track, and the Magnegosyo Taday initiative for MSMEs. The committee sought further information on how these programs align with the OVP's mandate. And lastly, Madam Chair, the committee requested an explanation of how the OVP's programs reflect its constitutional mandate and whether the proposed 2025 budget will support continued progress in these areas. That would be all, Madam Chair, and I would yield back the floor to the Senior Vice Chair, Representative Stella Kimbo. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
So we shall begin interpellation. Siyempre nakakalungkot na wala tayong representatives mula sa OVP, pero muli meron tayong representatives mula sa DBM at COA. And again, I would like to
Madam Chair.
remind our members that you each have 5 minutes for your interpellation, and to remind our resource persons that those 5 minutes will not include your responses. And so the first
Madam
to
Chair.
interpellate from the minority, we have the Honorable Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours, Congrats.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to our resource persons from the COA and the DBM. Madam Chair, this representation, first and foremost, laments the fact that the Office of the Vice President has failed to appear today. We lament the fact that, as I understand, the committee actually extended courtesy. In the letter, it was indicated that the Vice President may or may not attend. However, it is required that a representative be here. Unfortunately, not even a representative is present here, kahit Yusek man lang, ASEC, not even a director, for us to be answer questions. As a personal courtesy to the Office of the Vice President and understanding her responses from the last hearing, this representation has opted to question mostly the budget of 2023 regarding the regular budget. But even then, unfortunately, it would seem that the OVP is not here for us to question. So it But in line with their duty in the House for the deliberation of the budget, I will carry on with my questions siguro po dito na lang si COA because coincidentally my questions are precisely on the COA report. So with that, Madam Chair, I will be now proceeding with my questioning to the COA.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
What is your point of order? And please explain the rule that is violated.
The rule violated, Madam Chair, is our tradition. You just upheld that the tradition will be respected. And so, if questions will still be asked, then the tradition that we have kept so well, that you have said that we're not about to discard right now, will be disrespected again. I thought we understood each other.
Kong Marcoleta, we had already voted earlier on that issue.
That's
on
another
petition,
matter,
so
Madam Chair.
Your point is not well taken. Please proceed, Kong Rog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to direct my question to the COA. Madam Chair, I understand part of the budget of the OVP was utilized for the construction of satellite offices. Would that be confirmed by the COA?
The Office of the Vice President has several satellite offices. Three established in 2022 and seven were established in 2023. So it's I stand corrected. 3/4 based on the report, or 7 was established in 2022 and 3 was established in 2023. So around 10 satellite offices were established by the Office of the Vice President.
Madam Chair, my next question was supposedly about whether there were additional satellite offices or extension offices established in 2024. But I believe the COA will not be able to answer this, so I will forgo this question. I also have a question as to whether there will be additional SOs and EOs in 2025 as to their proposed budget. But I understand also the COA will not be in a position to answer this, so I will forgo this. Madam Chair, based on the OVP, annual audit report for 2023, there is an item there regarding the rent and lease expenses. Would you be able to clarify with us what were your findings on rent and lease expenses?
Based on our observations, there are no major deficiency or significant deficiencies on the rent expenses of the OB.
Sorry, Madam Chair, may I clarify, magkano po yung lease expenses that you have found in your audit report?
Based on the notes to financial statement prepared by the agency, the amount of rent expenses for the year 2023 is around 53,463,434.11.
And Madam Chair, for fiscal year 2022, how much po yung lease nila?
For the 2022, it is 29,867,228.20.
So roughly from around 30 million to 53 million po yung increase no? Rent natin. Okay, thank you. But for these SOs and EOs, actually, Madam Chair, on this juncture, I was supposed to ask the Office of the Vice President if there was any studies conducted as to the locations of the satellite offices and extension offices. But as there's no representative, I will have to forego this question. Madam Chair, may we ask the COA, based on their reports and the previous administrations, were satellite offices and extension offices constructed by previous administrations?
On my knowledge, based on my knowledge, the previous office of the Vice President or the previous administration for Office of the Vice President does not have a satellite offices.
No satellite offices. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, what exactly is the function of, based on your audit and based on your investigation, what is the exact function of a satellite office or extension office?
Based on our audit, the satellite offices has the functions to extend the social services such as the medical and burial assistance of the programs of the Office of the Vice President.
Madam Chair, so it's meant to be an extension of the social services function.
Yes.
But Madam Chair, I understand in your executive summary, you also, as COA, you familiarize yourselves with the office and the function, and the mandate is necessary for you to determine whether or not it is in line with what they are supposed to be doing, correct, Madam Chair? So Madam Chair, with the OBP, what is the exact mandate of the Office of the Vice President as far as the COA is concerned?
Based on the notes to financial statement or our report, the OBP is a national government agency established under Section 3 of the Article 7 of the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, and later reorganized on July 24, 1987 under Executive Order number 240, and then as the second highest office in the land committed to the service of the nation, OBP performs executive, ceremonial, and advocacy functions, collaborating with stakeholder and organization in both public and private sectors to develop and promote programs that uplift the lives of the Philippines.
Madam Chair, according to the COA, in your opinion, can the OVP continue its programs without satellite offices and extension offices? As you mentioned in the previous administrations, wala naman pong SO and EO. So, based on your audit findings, would it be absolutely necessary that we have this rent and lease expenses?
I think if the question is kung necessary po ba yung mga pag-open ng extensions office, I think the question must be addressed to the office of the Vice President, not the auditors. But then on our point of view, based on our audit, that to extend the services, it is considered or it may be okay for the Office of the Vice President to open an extension office or satellite offices to extend their services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I would agree, and I was actually considering foregoing that question, but I just wanted to get the COA's opinion since they have institutional and historical knowledge of yung previous administrations and the fact that they were able to carry out their functions without satellite offices and extension offices. But with that, Madam Chair, understanding also that tama naman po yung sinabi ng COA that perhaps the SO and the EOs are there to assist in the administration of other functions of the OVP. I understand that there's a finding in your observations and recommendations, number 8, regarding the cash advances. Can you please clarify ano po ito?
Madam Chair, under the number 8 of the observation, this is the under and over budget allocation for each satellite offices. Based on our review on the average monthly disbursement of each satellite office, based on the actual expenses for CY 2023, it disclosed that the cash advances granted to the disbursement officers in the OVP satellite office were not within the 2-month budget requirements as required by the Section 20, Chapter 6, Volume 1 of the GAMFO and GAS. So there is an under and over 2-month budget requirements.
Madam Chair, my understanding po of this cash advance is to allow for the orderly administration of those functions of the SOs and EOs po, no? And rightly, there are guidelines with COA that 2 months po yung ideal na meron parang for their operating usage. Madam Chair, can the COA correct us based on their understanding of the nationwide needs of budgeting and auditing? Are all regions equal po ba? Are all the requirements equal throughout the country? Or varying naman po siya based on demographic, based on demand? With
Madam
other
Chair,
functions, for example, when you're auditing of the DSWD, sa history po ninyo, when they're auditing their social services functions, equal po ba palagi ang budget ng kanilang regional offices?
Madam Chair, on my knowledge, actually, dapat po mayroong assessment on the scope or the number of beneficiaries involved kasi kung assistance po ito, kailangan natin i-consider yung number of beneficiaries. So, hindi po dapat equally.
Correct. So, we should be actually considering ano po yung pangangailangan ng ating mga kababayan, ilan po yung ating mga kababayan doon, yung population center, yung how far they are from the office. Yun po ay mga aspects that we consider when setting up regional offices. That would be a fair assumption to make. Correct po, no, Mr. Chair? Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, do you find it odd that for all of these satellite offices, they share an equal 2.2 million cash advance? except of course for the BARM, which suspiciously only has 200,000 cash advance granted.
For this observation, Office of the Vice President established or equally granted cash advance for 2,200,000 for each satellite office except for the BARM. So kaya po meron kaming observation na over budget utilization kasi for us, I think hindi dapat siya uniform. It must be consider po yung lawak ng scope or yung mga beneficiaries involved po natin para po makonsider yung tamang amount na i-establish po natin. So as you can see in the report, there's a under over budget requirements. So meron pong mga satellite offices na sobra yung budget. At the same time, meron naman pong mga satellite offices na kulang yung budget.
And
Madam Chair, parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chair. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
parliamentary inquiry.
The Honorable Abante.
It is also a cherished tradition in Congress that whenever we deliberate the budget of a certain agency, that the head of the agency must be present. At this point in time, there are no staff here. The head of agency present on the office of the Vice President. And we only have a DBM here. A DBM even answered that only, the COA even answered that only the OVP could be able to answer that. Perhaps we could be able to say, kanina, sinabi rin po ni Mr. Marcoleta, it's a cherished tradition to approve the budget immediately, but there's a cherished tradition that when we deliberate a budget of any agency, that the head of agency should be present. That is my parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chair.
So, as we had explained earlier, we received a letter dated 10 September. At doon sa liham na yon, pinaliwanag ng ating Vice Presidente na sinabit na po niya lahat ng mga documents na sa tingin niya ay kakailanganin ng Kongreso sa ating pagkilatis ng kanyang budget.
Yes, Madam
And
Chair.
so, yun po
But,
ang sitwasyon natin sa ngayon. Pwede natin, pagkatapos ng ating interpellation, pwede natin desisyonan kung anong gagawin. Pero sa ngayon, ipapagpatuloy muna natin ang pagtatanong.
Madam Chair, let me
Honorable
explain.
Abante.
No? But her letter, actually, na her not being present here, is an insult to this institution. When we had the last hearing, I even questioned her if this institution has the right to scrutinize the budget, and she even failed to answer. My goodness, I think that her writing a letter to us telling us that she has completed it, she still must be present, Madam Chair. And because she is not present, she is actually insulting the second institution that should scrutinize the budget of the Vice President. And I do not care even if she is the Vice President, Madam Chair. I will not allow that Congress will be insulted by the head of any agency.
Duly noted.
But Madam Chair, whatever your decision might be, I would concede to it.
Salamat po. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and salamat pong Benny. Akala ko po ako yung subject ng point of inquiry ninyo. Natakot po doon, pero salamat po. And I share the frustration and lament that. And actually, as you can see based on my interpellation, although, yes, we're able to get these questions out in the open, wala po tayong actual sagot na nakukuha, unfortunately. And this is by no fault of the COA. We appreciate your attendance here and your answering to the best of your abilities. But it's just that precisely the questions here relating to the budget of 2025, understandably, will not be able to answer. With that, Madam Chair, I have other questions here And supposedly at this juncture, lahat na po ito ay targeted, directed po doon sa OVP. But just to point it out po, no, going back to what the COA mentioned regarding the percentage of variance, yung over po nga ng Cebu and Bohol was 70%. As compared naman yung under for Panay and Negros Islands, 276% po. So hindi po maayos yung pag-distribute throughout the regions. It seems to be they were done equally. They were equally cut. And I think this would definitely have an effect on the operational effectiveness of yung mga satellite offices and extension offices. But anyway, I leave it to the body to decide on what to do with this, and I will now conclude my interpellation. Thank you very much, COA. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Salamat. Next to interpellate from the majority, we have the Honorable Fidel Nograles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is addressed to the COA in relation to the question on the lease or rent of satellite offices. I would like to ask, based on your audit report, that you mentioned that in 2022, there was 29 million, and in 2023, there was 53 million spent on lease or rent of satellite offices or extension offices. In your audit report, do you have details on the breakdown of this 53 million spent on year 2023? If yes, can you provide our committee with information on how this 53 million on the lease of satellite offices was spent?
Madam Chair, based on the report, the rent expenses or lease expenses in CY 2023 represents the payment for the lease of office at the Robinson Cybergrid Plaza, Disaster Operations Center, and various satellite office locations. It also includes the lease of storage space for various files and equipment and lease of multi-copier machines. So, for your question, Madam Chair, on the exact amount or the breakdown of the 53 million, we can provide it on the later date because we have no on records on file as of this moment.
Madam Chair, on record, do you have an average of the monthly lease or the rent of these satellite offices?
For the monthly average, Madam Chair, as of now, we cannot provide the exact amount or the average because in the report we have no written or there is no breakdown on the annual or the monthly expenses for rent and that. But we can provide the copy once we got the documents on the office.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I would also like to ask about the salaries and wages. If you have information in your audit report regarding the disbursed amount for contractual and casual employees of the satellite offices.
Based on the notes to financial statement, including in the in our report, there are no breakdown for the salaries and wages for the satellite offices.
Madam Chair, for my last question, I would like to ask about the financial assistance or subsidies given to political organizations or non-NGOs. Do you have information in your audit report which you can provide to our committee regarding the disbursement or the release of amounts given to political organizations or NGOs?
Madam Chair, based on the notes to financial statement in our report, the assistance to non-government organization or civil society organization for the year 2023 is amounting 582,951.48.
Madam Chair, how about for 2024? Do you have information in your audit report on the subsidy or financial assistance to NGOs?
Madam Chair, for the 2024, we have no details because the annual audit report is pertaining to the annual for CY 2023. But we can provide the details once we have once we back in the office.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Salamat. Next is the Honorable Arlene Brosas.
Madam Chair,
But
Madam
before you
Chair.
begin,
point of order, Madam Chair.
what is your point of order? And what is the rule being
I
violated?
do realize the kindness of our colleagues here. And I really appreciate that kindness, Madam Chair. But we are facing a blank wall. My goodness, without the presence of any of the officers and officials of the Office of the Vice President, we are facing a blank wall here, Madam Chair. And that's my point of order, because I really appreciate the kindness of my colleagues here in this briefing. Masyado tayong naging mabait, Madam Chair, and I would think that it is time for us to realize that we should not allow any head of agency to further insult the authority of Congress to scrutinize the budget, Madam Chair. That is my point of order.
Madam Chair, very quickly, Madam Chair, if I may.
Kung Abante, I believe that was a manifestation, not a point of order. So yes, we note your manifestation, and we proceed to the Honorable Garin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. With due courtesy to my mentor, and of course, a legislator who have been here for long. We admire and we respect the context of the Honorable Abante. However, Madam Chair, I believe this issue has been deliberated for several hours already since we started. With that, Madam Chair, even with the absence of the Vice President, but with the presence of other officials here, and with members who would like to ask questions, can we please proceed with that with due courtesy to the Honorable Abante, Madam Chair? Because we also have other meetings to attend to, and we have a lot of members listed. So with that, Madam Chair, I hope that we put a period on that issue. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, and let me just thank you, Honorable Garin, and let me just add a few more points. First is, kung naalala niyo po, nung huling hearing, yung ating representative mula sa COA, yung si Assistant Commissioner Juliano, ay wala siya masyadong naibigay na information dahil hindi naman po siya yung individual na nakakaalam nung mga tinatanong ng mga members. That's one. Pangalawa po, ang audit report for 2023 ay hindi pa po posted ng COA. So hindi pa alam ng ating mga members, pati ng ating mga kababayan. And that's the reason for why marami pong nakalista sa ngayon. There are 14 members who wish to ask questions. So kung sana po mamarapati natin, ay papayagan natin ang ating mga miyembro na magtanong. Kasi meron silang mga genuine na curiosity talaga dito sa budget ng OVP. So yun lang po. Kaya payagan na muna natin, and later on let's decide kung anong gusto natin gawin dito sa budget ng OVP.
Madam Chair.
Yes po.
I would accede to that, Madam Chair, but let me just explain further. No? I was asked, what if the Vice President would not come to the briefing? No? Sabi ko, that's fine. As long as other officials of the OVP that could be able to answer us concerning the budget would come, Madam Chair.
Yes.
But there's no one here.
Thank
Secondly,
you. And
Madam Chair,
we have already
I would like to remind
We've already ruled.
our people that are listening right now, this is not just one congressman. This is a collegial body. And being a collegial body, as given the mandate by the Constitution, to brief and ask questions concerning the budget, the fact that the head of the agency is not here today is further giving an insult to the body here, and that is, I think, would be unconstitutional, Madam Chair. Yun lang po ang gusto kong sabihin. And I would accede that we should continue on. Thank you.
Salamat po. And again, continuing with the proceedings does not mean that this is an acceptable situation. Ang sinasabi lang po natin is let us take advantage of the presence of our very hardworking members of GOA and DBM. Pagkakataon na po na malaman ang hindi natin nalalaman tungkol sa budget ng OVP. So with that, please proceed. Sorry, I have not yet recognized the next to interpolate. From the minority, we have the Honorable Arlene Brosas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maraming salamat, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would also like to mention na I believe during the time of Vice President Leni Robredo, we were able to ask her some questions. So, Madam Chair, hindi po cast in stone yung usapin ng tradition. So, Madam Chair, meron tayong mga ganun ding precedents, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, on to my questions, Madam Chair. Kaugnay po sa programa ng OVP. Of course, ayun, again, wala dito. So, pwedeng itanong ko na lang sa COA ito. Yung OVP kasi meron siyang program na kalusugan food truck. Mobile kitchen para sa pagbibigay ng pagkain sa mga disaster responders. Based on the COA report, there were food items nearing expiry. Food items that were not found in the storage area, and food items which were kept in an unventilated shipping container during the physical inventory taking on last December 18 to 20, 2023. Ang tanong po natin sa COA, magkano yung worth ng lahat ng ito? Tapos, baka pwede pong ipaliwanag ng audit team ninyo, ano yung nangyari? Ba't nagkaganito?
Madam Chair, based on the COA report, there are various deficiencies observed during the physical count, inventory taking in the Davao Satellite Office on December 18 to 20, 2023, such as yung food items nearing expiry were remain undistributed, food items were not found in the storage area, food items were kept in an unventilated shipping container and in the food truck, thus indicating lapses in the OBP's inventory management. So, for the details of the cost of the stock, based on the report, the total amount is 148,422. That's the distribution of food items as of November 30, 2023, wherein the audit team, those that witnessed the physical inventory counting, observed that there were food items nearing expiry. But then there is a management comment here that the guidelines on the disaster operation program was revised through the office order number 2024-07, so strengthen the program by delegating tasks to the satellite offices to allow the agency to provide more efficient and effective disaster relief response. So, aside from that, the management also commented, or the OBP management commented, that the specific items identified as nearing expiry were all distributed during the emergency response activity from December 27 to 28, 2023 and January 31, 2024 to February 2, 2024 as per post-activity reports with the food truck meals plan. So, in here po, na-distribute na po yung mga nearing expiry items. Then in 2023 also, it was observed that the mobilization of the food truck located in Metro Manila, which caters the entire Luzon Island, was higher compared to the food truck in Davao. Hence, the Disaster Operations Center of the OBP decided to transfer the cup noodles to Metro Manila to avoid expiry. Then the transfer was done without additional cost to the OBP, since it is coincided with the scheduled travel of the DOC personnel. So, for the status, these all cups noodles were distributed during the emergency response activity in December 2023 in relation to the Tondo fire incident as per activity reports. And lastly, all food items inside the Kalusugan food truck were transferred to the storage facility. And on November 14, sub food items were brought brought on board to the food truck for distribution. However, the Davao Satellite Office had to prepare to receive the 25,000 gift pack for the OBP anniversary Thanksgiving activity. Thus, they decided not to unload the food truck and transfer the other food items to the container van to provide space for the said gift packs. After the said activity, the food items stored in the food truck and container vans were brought back to the storage area on January 3, 2024. That's all, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, para ako nagde-deja vu ng DepEd, ano, yung mga na-expire na pagkain at saka powdered milk. Sinasabi niyo po, yun din yung tanong ko sinasabi niyo po na yung powdered milk, cereal drink, instant coffee, pinamahagi siya during the emergency response activity. Pero ito yung kung kailan malapit na yung expiration date ng mga items, Madam Chair. So, syempre hindi ko naman kayo matanong kasi OVP yung naggawa. Bakit ganito, Madam Chair, no? Ang dami palang mga deficiencies na ganyan. Tapos, hindi na ubos yung pondo, right? May natitira pa ito?
Madam Chair, what specific fund po?
Yung fund po para dito sa Kalusugan Food Truck. Hence, Madam Chair, talaga it's very important na masagot ng OVP ito kasi ano ito pagkain, ito ay kailangan ng mga mamamayan pero apparently hindi pala naibibigay. So, tapos kung hindi man naibibigay, too late na maibigay. Tapos paulit-ulit ito. We've seen this doon sa DepEd and we are now seeing it sa OVP, Madam Chair. I am asking sa COA kung may natitira pa. But while you are looking for the details po, may tanong ako sa Magnegosyo Taday. Yung sa Magnegosyo Taday, ano po yung allotted budget para dito sa programa na ito?
For the Magnegosyo Taday program of the OBP allotted 150 million.
Tapos magkano po na-utilize?
Based on the COA report, out of the 150 million, only 600,000 or 0.40% were utilized as of December 31, 2023, Madam Chair.
So sayang yung pondo, Madam Chair. Sayang yung pondo para dito. And Madam Chair, parang pwede naman ito inilagay na lang sa DTI. Kasi kung yun pala yung pondo na yun. Or baka pwede pa sa mga iba pang mga sectors na nangangailangan, DSWD or the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Yun lang, Madam Chair, may mga malalaking pondo dito, sayang, tapos hindi nagagamit ng maayos, Madam Chair. And can you give me po yung to follow na lang, gusto ko po kahit yung i-explain ninyo kung yung mga food items, expiry, tapos magkano yung nagastos doon, magkano kasi observations po yan tapos kung ano pa yung natitirang pondo para doon. Yun lang, Madam Chair, maraming salamat. Thank you.
Salamat. Next is from the majority, we have the Honorable Doris Meniquez.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning po sa lahat. Ang question ko lang po sa COA, meron po ba tayong guidelines na mga list ng properties natin? Katulad po itong sa OVP, lumalabas po na 53 million ang list niya per annum na kung tutusin po parang duplication lang din ng mga 9 agencies natin. May guidelines po ba tayo para dito?
Madam Chair, for the guidelines, for the procurement of rental or lease of spaces or rental of real property and other items or other equipment. It is based on the procurement law RA 9184,
Ay,
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, kasi po nakikita natin na yung mga services na inoffer ng mga satellite offices at extension offices ay binibigay din naman po ng regional offices, ng mga line agencies katulad ng DSWD, DOH, DOLE, TESDA, lahat po yun. So hindi ho ba natin dapat ma-disallow yung mga ganong expenses na duplication lang? Katulad po nung rental na lang na 53 million, wala hong problema doon sa personnel, at least nakinabang ang taong bayan. Pero doon po sa list ng mga properties na 53 million, lumalabas po yun, 4.4 million per month.
Madam Chair, if I may interject in line with the questioning of our good Congresswoman, maybe we can use this as a reference. With regards to VP Lenny, her lease contract with Quezon City, which I was the one who drafted the contract, her monthly rental is 308,700 monthly, plus 12%, so that's roughly about 345,744. And